I've been to 25 countries, I am a certified sommelier and developed 3 blogs in different languages from scratch. In this video, I'll share my experience how languages helped me create a life that I've been dreaming of, and I'm sure that the same pattern of actions will work for you. So let's not waste time anymore and get down to business. My native language is Russian. At home we spoke nothing but Russian, so as a kid I had only one native language. At the age of 6 I went to school, and the choice of that school was probably one of the best decisions of my parents, because the school specialized in languages. We learned English from the very beginning, and then in the 8th grade French was added. It was just normal school learning. I can't say that I could fluently speak English after school, but it was already something. After school, as many other graduates, I was quite frustrated about my future and didn't have a clear understanding of what I should do or even what I like at the moment. So I just decided to choose some career related to languages in order not to lose all the knowledge of English and French I had obtained at school. I chose a regional studies bachelor course. Probably it doesn't exist in your country, so the most similar and commonly known one for it is international relations. We basically studied history, culture, politics, some economy, and obviously foreign languages. At the university I studied English and Spanish. Spanish was the new language for me, so I started learning it from scratch, but in just a little bit more than 1 year I managed to pass the LSE1 exam in Spanish. It wasn't easy, but I really understood that without that diploma my life could go in a direction that I really didn't want it to go. So migrating to Spain and finding a job with the help of this certificate was my plan B, which I had in mind during all my university studies. During my preparation for the exam in Spanish, I also discovered one thing that determined the direction of my life until now. I went to volunteer in Spain just to practice the language. I worked at the avocado land. The work wasn't quite hard, and spending almost the whole summer in Spain was quite nice for a 20-year-old guy like me. So when I returned home, I realized that traveling is the thing that I like, probably the most in the world. I decided to dedicate some time after the university to travel, and I really did it hard. I'm 25 years old now, and I have visited 25 countries so far. It's not that much, there are people who visit 100 countries or even more, but I'm not competing with anyone. The first type of travel I tried was hitchhiking, and I loved it very much. I loved the freedom of being nowhere on the road, meeting awesome people and listening to their stories. I hitchhiked in Spain, Norway, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan and many other countries, and that feeling of unity with other people, with other nations, of being in an adventure still lives in me. I have plans to go hitchhiking to a bunch of other countries, because it's not only about traveling cheap, but also about the experience and being inclusive in the process. It's probably one of the best ways to travel for me. Sooner or later I realized that I cannot always travel the world, as I needed some money. I started thinking about the ways of earning money, and I thought that I could share my experience with other people. Of course, I tried a lot of other jobs before. I worked as a cruise ship guide for Portuguese tourists in Russia, I wrote articles about financial organizations in Mexico, taught languages in private language schools, and did a lot of other stuff, but blogging was my ideal job. You know, all that stereotype pictures when a blogger is working with a laptop near the ocean with a glass full of mango juice? Well, sometimes it's really like that, but not always. As any other job, blogging requires effort, persistence and self-discipline, especially self-discipline. Because without that, it's very likely to lay on the beach near the ocean all day long without working. In other jobs you are forced to work, but being a blogger is totally different. You manage the time, decide how much you should work the next day or next week, when you can take a day off and when you cannot. So it's really different, but I liked that idea and decided to give it a chance. Since then I have developed 2 successful blogs in Russian from scratch, 35 and 45,000 subscribers, and one of these blogs is about traveling, the passion of all my conscious life. Now I'm working hard on my Spanish blog about gadgets and different tech specs that already has more than 9,000 subs in just 4 months. I'm not showing off, these are not the best results ever which one can achieve, but thanks to that I can live a life I've always wanted to live. And that is probably the best thing one can do. Live a life that he or she wants. To be satisfied with life is really the best purpose of life one can have. And just to add a few last touches, recently I have passed the WSET exam, which is the international qualification for sommeliers from all over the world. I developed a passion for wine for a long time, and just 6 months ago I decided to take special course and pass the exam to become a professional sommelier. I don't work in the sphere of wine right now. It's probably more like a hobby, but potentially there can be one more career opportunity which wouldn't be available without English. Why? Because the exam and the whole course were in English. So, what are the profits for you from my story? How learning languages can help you live the life you want to live? The first and the most obvious thing is that foreign languages help you communicate with people. Sounds too obvious, but it implies a lot of different things. You can find a new job abroad, work for an international company, or even create your own company. It's hard to go big without knowing at least 1 or 2 foreign languages. I worked in different spheres related to languages, from a private language tutor to a teacher in a language school and tour guide, but now I'm developing YouTube channels. I have one channel in Spanish about gadgets, and also this one, the channel you are currently watching. In your case, it's not necessarily the same, but just think of things that you love and how you can apply the knowledge of languages to it. Maybe you're a good dancer or a great sports trainer, and you can open your private school in another country or online school worldwide. And all you need is just to talk in English to your audience or in some other language you choose, and that will be your motivation to study and to achieve new heights in business, career, relationship, or whatever. The second thing is also very straightforward, but for me it means a lot. Knowledge of foreign languages helps to travel. You know, it's totally different experience to travel to a country and talk to locals in their native language. It's like you go to the next level of trust and credibility in your conversations, because people always like it if a foreigner tries to speak in their language. Even if he doesn't speak well and makes some mistakes, it doesn't matter. If you make an effort to speak, it already means a lot to them. I had similar experience in France several times. I learned French at school, but only for 4 years, and I didn't practice it much after graduation, so my French now is really very basic. And in France, I tried to speak to the locals in French. Probably they knew English and it would be easier for us to communicate in English, but I did my best to speak their language. And people really appreciated that. They helped me a lot during my hitchhiking travels, and I even made friends with one guy from southern France, and we had a great time together at the time. For me, emotions that you get while traveling are more precious than the money you get from work, so it's not only about earning money, but also about spending them with pleasure. And the least obvious, but probably the most important thing, is that learning languages develops your brain. It creates new neural connections and it helps to train your brain. Like physical training does good for your body, learning languages is beneficial for your brain condition. It's scientifically proven that people who know some foreign languages are less likely to suffer from dementia, sclerosis, and other severe brain illnesses. So, if you want to live a long, happy life, being always in a good state of mind, learning languages is the best thing you can do. It won't only keep your brain alright, but also help to be more productive and creative thanks to new neural connections created by learning languages. I can prove that with my own experience one more time. When I don't practice speaking Spanish, English, or even my native language, Russian, very soon I realized that I construct phrases and sentences less quickly, and it costs me a lot of effort. As if I forget some words and start to memorize them just at the moment of speaking. I don't know if it sounds familiar to you or not, but for me, this situation is very common. So never stop learning something new. Not necessarily languages, but still languages are a very good example. If you still have any doubts about how to learn English having fun but efficiently, you can take a couple of private lessons with us in our online school English with Nat. My wife Natalie and I are more than happy to help you with a vast array of languages, from Spanish and English to Chinese, Serbian, or even Russian. Check the link to our Instagram in the description below and write to us straight away if you have any questions. See you in the next video. Bye!